All right, ready to dive into some really interesting stuff happening in the world of AI.
Absolutely. Always ready to geek out about AI.
So we keep hearing about these bigger and more powerful AI models coming out, right? But OpenAI seems to be switching gears a bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty big shift. They're moving away from just throwing more data at the problem. Their new model, O1, is all about reasoning.
Reasoning. So it's not just about being big and powerful, it's about actually, well, thinking.
Exactly. For a while, it was all about building these massive models with billions, even trillions of parameters. Think of parameters like connections in a brain, more connections, more capacity to learn. But O1 is different.
So instead of just being a giant sponge soaking up information, it's trying to understand it, like actually figure things out.
Exactly. Imagine trying to get to a new restaurant, right? You wouldn't just drive around randomly hoping you find it.
Hopefully not.
Right. You'd probably use a map, break the route down into steps, maybe even think about traffic or other ways to get there. That's kind of how O1 solves problems.
So it breaks things down, considers different options, uses logic to get to an answer. That sounds a lot more like how we humans solve problems.
It really does. And it's all thanks to a technique called reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement learning. Okay, break that down for us. What is that?
So imagine training a dog, right? You give it a treat when it does something good, maybe a correction when it does something wrong. Over time, the dog learns to repeat the actions that get those treats.
Makes sense. Positive reinforcement.
Exactly. Reinforcement learning is basically that, but with AI. You set up rewards and penalties for certain actions, and the AI learns through trial and error, trying to get those rewards.
So like O1 is a student, getting gold stars for right answers, maybe a try again for the wrong ones. But instead of algebra, it's solving these complex reasoning puzzles.
Exactly. And the fascinating thing is this lets O1 actually outperform much larger models in some areas. Remember we were talking about billions of
Yeah,
parameters.
those massive models.
Right. Well, O1 is actually much smaller than something like GPT-4, but it can still outsmart them on tasks that require more intricate reasoning.
It's really amazing. It shows that bigger isn't always better. It's like they say, it's not the size of the dog in the fight.
It's the fight in the dark.
Exactly.
And a perfect example of that, the Wired article mentioned this really tricky puzzle that O1 solved, while GPT-4 just couldn't crack it. It's called the Princess and the Prince age puzzle. Have you heard of it?
Oh yeah, that one's a brain twister. All those conditional statements about their ages, you have to like untangle them to figure it out. It's
Yeah.
the kind of problem that makes you want to grab a pencil and paper, start drawing diagrams.
It really does.
I'm impressed that O1 can actually handle that kind of thinking. What's the secret there?
Well, a lot of it comes down to how it's trained with reinforcement learning. It's not just trying random solutions until it gets lucky. It's constantly evaluating its own progress, learning from its mistakes, adjusting based on feedback.
So it's like it has its own internal critic, always reviewing its work and suggesting improvements.
Exactly. And that feedback loop is key to refining those reasoning skills over time. That's how it goes from solving simple logic puzzles to, say, writing code or designing proteins.
Wow. It seems like reinforcement learning is a pretty big deal,
Hmm.
not just for O1, but for all of AI, right?
Oh, absolutely. You're probably interacting with it every day without even knowing it.
Really?
Think about streaming services that offer personalized recommendations. That's reinforcement learning. Or optimizing traffic flow in cities, even developing new medical treatments. The algorithms learn, get rewarded for good outcomes, and adjust accordingly.
So it's not just about smarter machines. It's about using that intelligence to actually solve real-world problems.
Precisely. But it's important to remember, O1, as amazing as it is, still has limitations. Unlike some larger models, it can't search the internet or process images or audio.
So it's a brilliant thinker, but can't browse for memes or appreciate cat videos just yet.
Exactly. It's still a work in progress, you know.
And,
OpenAI is always working on expanding its abilities.
well, that's good to know. Speaking of the bigger picture, the Wired article mentioned that OpenAI is already developing GPT-5, which is going to be even bigger than GPT-4, right?
Yeah.
But here's what I found interesting. They want to include this new reasoning technology in it as well.
Yeah, that's what has me really excited.
It's like combining the raw power of a supercomputer with the thinking of a grandmaster chess player.
Exactly. Just imagine the possibilities.
It's almost like science fiction, an AI that can not only process tons of information, but also actually understand it, reason about it in ways we haven't seen before. What could that do for, like, scientific research?
Yeah.
Or even creative fields like art or music?
The potential is just incredible. Imagine scientists using AI to analyze these complex data sets and find patterns that would take them years to find on their own. Or musicians working with AI to create completely new types of music, genres we haven't even imagined.
Wow. It's like giving humanity this massive intellectual boost. But with everyone working on AI, what makes OpenAI's approach stand out? We touched on Google's alpha proof, right? That uses reinforcement learning too. What makes O1 different?
That's the key question. It's what makes O1 so interesting. One of the biggest challenges in AI is making systems that can reason well across different areas. We don't just want an AI that's great at math but can't hold a
All
conversation.
right, it's got to be well-rounded.
Exactly. OpenAI says O1 is a big step towards this generalized reasoning.
So instead of having all these specialized AIs, each one good at just one thing, we're talking about an AI that's more like a universal problem solver that can tackle challenges in all sorts of fields.
Exactly. And that's why this focus on reasoning is so important. It's not about making AI smarter in just one way. It's about a more adaptable kind of intelligence, something that can really work with us, augment our own abilities.
This has been an awesome deep dive exploring O1 and this new wave of reasoning in AI. Really makes you think about where we're headed, both the amazing possibilities and also the challenges, right? What's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners will remember from our talk today?
I think the key thing is AI isn't just about brute force computation anymore. It's about developing systems that can learn, that can adapt, and reason more like we do. And as we enter this new era of AI, it's up to all of us to really think about the implications, the ethical questions, and make sure we're using this powerful tech for the good of everyone.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to check back for more explorations into the ever-evolving world of AI.